This is the Authority Partners podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Authority Partners podcast. I'm Carlos Tejada, and I'll be sharing this space with Dino Buljubasic. So, welcome, Dino. And can you please do a short intro about yourself?
Thank you, Carlos. Sure. So my name is Dino, and I've been with Authority Partners for almost 10 years. I'm currently holding the role of head of infrastructure department. I've actually been in IT industry for over 15 years, working mostly as a system engineer. But in the last few years, I've been taking a bit more responsibility in terms of management and things like that. So yeah, I'm really happy to have the opportunity. Well, actually, this is my second podcast, so I'm really happy to be back.
Oh, sounds great. And thank you for that intro. Today, you have the interest of sharing with us the knowledge about the topic of a dialogue with AI ethics and data security. This is your expertise, of course. So let's see if we can trust the machines. So the first thing that I would like to know is what sparked in beginning this conversation?
Well, basically, my journey into this topic, it's sort of a blend of passion and necessity, really. Like with the background in systems engineering, security is always being part of my professional fabric, obviously. And as AI systems began to be regular part of our lives, from personal devices to critical infrastructure, I simply noticed a gap in the conversation, particularly around security. And I've seen numerous instances of AI systems making biased decisions, and that always raises red flags about, ethics as well. So it became clear to me that, there was a need to educate and engage people to speak more on this topic. So basically, this podcast is like my way of starting that crucial dialogue to unpack challenges and opportunities that are presented by AI, like discuss ethical considerations, share best practices for security, AI systems, etc.
Yes, I agree with you. I couldn't agree more. I think that we need to do this deployment of or these new AI capabilities in a responsible manner, and we need to take into consideration the human element in all of this. Thank you for sharing that. So could you please tell us about real-world ethical conundrums that we face with AI and data security right now?
Yeah, there are a lot of them, really, especially, as I said, as people use it more and more, we see a lot of potential problems and also problems that happen in real life. Like, imagine artificial intelligence as some super smart detective, it goes through mountains of data to sort of find some patterns that might indicate some criminal behavior, for example, But also there's a catch, to do this, it needs access to lots of personal data. So we're facing a dilemma of privacy versus effectiveness and usability. Also, like, for example, we have social media platforms, they all use artificial intelligence or its algorithms to personalize what we see. Now, if AI starts showing the content based on your most intimate searches or interaction, it really is using deeply personal data to keep you engaged, and ethically, it's a really gray area there. So how much should an algorithm know about you to enhance your experience, and who else gets, to see this information? That's the real question. Like, there's also a very good example of predictive policing, like police departments, they could use artificial intelligence to forecast crimes by analyzing data like past criminal activity, demographics, even social media posts. And it's almost like a crystal ball for crime prevention. But what if this AI starts profiling certain neighborhoods or certain groups or certain racial indications and then, make their predictions based on that? Then we have a serious problem there. Like it happened with Facebook. They were charged with Fair Housing Act violations because they allowed their ad micro-targeting was done based on user attributes such as race, nationality, religion, etc. And also, I want to mention another very interesting example that Amazon introduced. They wanted to use artificial intelligence to sort of sift through their CVs when people apply for job. And the idea was fantastic. It was simply, to do the first selection process before they send over the CVs to HR for further processing. But the issue was that Amazon in the history was known as man-only company, and the artificial intelligence system actually learned about how to do its job from previous applications. And most of those applications were men applications. So very soon, the system itself became very biased against women. So as soon as it sees something like captain of the volleyball school team or winning a female debate competition or something like that, it would actually simply dismiss those applications for work. So yeah, it's really, really important to understand what implications these ethical dilemmas have in real life.
Yes, definitely. We need to ensure definitely that these biases are not added to our systems, at least the ones that are not good. So we need to, as society, decide where we want these AIs to align to. So I completely agree with you. We need to be careful when curating our data sets for this.
Absolutely.
Yes. So this leads me to the question then, how can we ensure that AI is both ethically developed and secure?
It's a good question. I like to use the analogy of like when you're building a skyscraper. Like the first thing you need is, you need a very good solid foundation. And that applies to AI as well. It starts with laying down some ethical groundwork, like some clear principles which will, prioritize like human rights, privacy, security, etc. So it's like almost like building codes for constructing AI systems. That's how I like to see it. You have things like transparency, where transparency, we want companies to be open about how they use artificial intelligence, how they use the data that artificial intelligence systems are actually trained on. When users know what data is collected and for what purpose, they will trust that system a bit more than the one where they have no idea what's happening behind the screens. There's also important role of watchdogs, like these can be any sort of independent bodies that can audit these AI systems. They'll ensure compliance with ethical standards, with data protection laws and everything else. And then I think one of the key things that we have to sort of promote as much as possible is education. Just like when you're building that skyscraper, you want to train your workers for high-rise construction. We also need to educate developers. We need to educate users, policymakers about all of these ethical implications of AI and basic data security, because knowledge here, it can really act as a safety harness against any sort of fall. And then, there are legal frameworks which can be like safety net. They can catch you when something goes wrong. So we need really robust laws that keep pace with technological advancements. We want to protect individuals' data and sort of prescribe different consequences for breaches. So when we integrate all of these elements into the development life cycle of any artificial intelligence system, then we can aim for future where sort of AI serves the greater good without compromising the digital safety and basically our personal freedom.
Okay, I see. Interesting view. And I think that you already started touching some of the challenges that we would face with AI. And can you think of any other unique challenges that this type of technology brings us?
Yeah, I recently had attended a conference where I actually spoke about these security challenges as well. In IT general, like it doesn't have to be AI system. We always have to be very careful about security and how we do security, what we have to sort of take into consideration. And there's this thing in cybersecurity in general, there's this thing called CIA triad, and it's not that CIA, it's a different one. It's a popular acronym, and the three components of this triad are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So they're all very, very crucial for any IT system, but AI system in particular as well. And I'll give you examples why. Like confidentiality. In 2019, there was researchers, they found that human reviewers will actually listening to recordings from personal assistants like Alexa or Google Assistant or Siri. And you can even imagine, what kind of uproar that actually sparked. People had direct access to personal recordings of other people, and no one nowhere accepted and gave permissions for that. It was just, you can imagine the backlash.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, that's actually very, very critical and very bad for
you never really think about it, and you never say, okay, yes, I agree with that. So that's probably the major problem with that. And that's what confidentiality is basically for any cybersecurity program. Now, integrity, it's all about trusting the data or trustworthiness of the data. Now, the best example for me there is, consider deepfakes. They show us how artificial intelligence can manipulate reality, and they're everywhere these days. And I recommend all the listeners to find the YouTube video called "I'm Not Morgan Freeman." It's unbelievably well made. It's almost impossible to spot it as a fake. I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but it's amazing.
I have not, but I will watch it after this.
Yeah, and there's also, I've seen very, like a few days ago, someone sent me the link to the whole TikTok channel, which was called Fake Tom. And it's actually deep fake videos of Tom Cruise. And there's 10, 15, 20 videos of Tom Cruise doing these ridiculous things. And obviously it's a deep fake. It's not Tom Cruise, but it's incredibly well made as well. So that's when we talk about data trust, that's what we mean. And, the last thing in CIA triad is availability. Like you want to make sure that your services are always accessible and available. And the best example of that, I think it was 2 years ago, Facebook had a major bug which disrupted their chatbot platform completely, And that it's not just a regular chatbot. Many businesses actually use it for their regular business to interact with their clients and everything else. And it was down completely. And even today, just as we speak, since last night, there is a major outage for OpenAI services. So ChatGPT is completely dead at the moment. It doesn't work. And it's been like that for at least 12 hours now. And you can imagine how much damage that can cause, not just financial, but reputational, I think, more than anything else.
This is very interesting, and I'm really shocked by the problems that we will face when talking about deepfakes. Deepfakes are going to be really, really a challenge for many reasons, and this could destroy companies' reputations. This could be used for a lot of harm in terms of politics. Also, it could scare populations. So we need to find somehow to ensure that misinformation is controlled. But paradoxically, we want more freedom, and we want more freedom of speech specifically. But somehow we need to curate and list what's valid and what is not.
There's such a fine line. There's such a fine line. It's
exactly.
It's really, really difficult to sort of decide what goes where and when do you actually cross the line.
Yes. For example, we could argue that we would need a third party agency or organization that could verify, like we verify SSL certificates for security with websites. Well, maybe we have something like that for content, but then everyone would have to have an account, and then people that want to be anonymous in some situations cannot be anonymous anymore because you need to properly identify them. So
exactly,
it's really complex.
I think it was a lot easier. You just mentioned certificates. It was sort of easier because they're just like some digital data. Mm-hmm. But now here we have humans as well, and we have to think about those things. And when you have humans, obviously you have feelings and stuff, and it's really difficult to draw the line.
After this short discussion on these deepfakes, could you please somehow demystify this for us? How can we have a clear view on what could be the potential measures that we can take regarding this issue or any other issues that you mentioned before?
Yeah, there's one other thing that I wanted to mention actually, besides deepfakes and stuff like that. There is this thing called adversarial attacks, and they're really intriguing. They come in many forms, and they're basically created to target specifically AI systems. So the main goal for these adversarial attacks, it's not just to steal some data, to do some damage in that way. It's mostly to subtly change AI models to make sort of mistakes or some incorrect decisions. So they just make changes to data from which AI system learns, and then it just starts making some silly decisions, or it can not do the job that it's designed to do. So let me give you another example. Like imagine self-driving cars. We have them everywhere these days. And AI system, it learns how to recognize stop sign and any other traffic signs, right? Now, if the stop sign, for example, is fiddled with and someone puts simple, very, very small, almost invisible to human eye, a sticker over it, the AI system of the self-driving car might not recognize it as a stop sign anymore. It will see it as something else. And you can imagine the problems that might cause,
And also, sorry to interrupt, but that there are attacks that could be performed where you do little modifications to images in which it makes these vision models classify things as something totally different. And we need to make sure that they are robust enough so they are not that vulnerable to these type of attacks. Even though we as humans have these kind of issues, but in a different way. For example, there was once an image of a dress going through the internet that was a blue dress. But many people also saw it as a white dress. So this is kind of the same thing, but with AI.
Yeah. With this, there's that famous, you can find that on the net as well. You probably saw it, the image of panda, where you add just a very, very small amount of digital noise to that image, and an AI system does not recognize it as panda anymore. It recognizes as some other animal. I can't remember. I think it was a gibbon or something like that. But, it just stops believing it's a panda. And it's amazing. Like there are a lot of things that you can do to sort of prevent these attacks and to fight against them. But it just goes to show how sophisticated the attackers are as well, thinking about these things and how they can actually fiddle with the system. And not necessarily, as I said, not necessarily to steal something and to do that kind of damage. I think this reputational damage is even more damaging. And that's why we talk about distrust.
Yes. And I don't know if you have also heard about some attackers, malicious attackers, like during Zoom calls or other type of meetings, that they actually have models that are trained on the sounds of the keyboards of the laptops, so they can decipher what you're typing. It's basically a different type of keylogger, basically. So
Yeah, it's
they're
just it's amazing.
they're getting creative. They're getting really, really creative.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. So let me see. How can our listeners shield their personal data from AI misuse, protect themselves from any other kind of attacks that you can foresee?
Yeah, it's an important question, of course, and it's probably a very hot topic. With, as I said at the beginning, AI is everywhere around us these days, and whatever new device you buy, it has some sort of AI algorithm or AI system running in the background. I think awareness is the most important thing. Like, you have to know what you're signing up for. I know it sounds boring, but we have to try to read those terms and conditions before we actually click agree. I know that no one does that, but it does sound tedious, but it's really crucial. It really is. And a lot of companies actually, they play that card thinking that no one's going to read this little small print. And, sometimes we agree to things like I mentioned before, the Facebook thing, we agree to things that we don't even know that we agreed to. Also, I always say that personal data should be treated like your home. You wouldn't really go out and leave your front door wide open. It's the same thing with your personal data, especially these days, everything is available on social media. So my advice is always, do not overshare things online. Always be selective about what sort of personal data you want to put out there. Privacy settings, they're your friends, Instagram, Facebook, any other. It's always important to go through those privacy settings and, make sure that you actually set things as they should be set. And then I don't even have to talk about passwords and accounts, right? Like, we should all know by now how we should treat passwords. And it's almost like your house keys, when you lose your house keys, you go and immediately change it and change your whole lock and everything else. So it's the same with passwords. If you have any idea or if you have any suspicion that it might be breached or anything, just change them all the time. Don't store them anywhere and anything else. And then, education is, I think, very, very powerful thing. The more you know about any sort of privacy, not just artificial intelligence, but any sort of privacy affecting systems, the better you can protect yourself and the better advice you can give to others as well. Don't never be afraid to sort of push your digital rights, because I think these companies that make these systems, they have to be accountable for, the data they collect, what they do with this data and everything else. I think that's really, really important thing.
So true. Everything that you said. And yes, people should stop sharing everything on their lives. They should share some stuff that they want their family members maybe to know, maybe their friends. But people should stop trying to share everything about them. It will help with mental health also, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So, okay. I have another question, but this is more towards, it involves also personal security, but also for companies. We are nowadays using a lot of third-party systems, APIs or chat interfaces and whatnot. And how can we safeguard our intellectual property in this new world of AI with these LLMs out there?
Yeah, that can be very tricky as well. But it's very similar, like for the personal advice that I just gave. Like, we have to do the due diligence. We have to research those potential companies that we are buying software from, or that we are using their APIs to connect to some other service or things like that. Sort of treat it like a new relationship. You want to know what you're getting yourself into before you commit to something more serious, basically. So check the credentials, check the reputation, get a clear view of what's their stance on data security and intellectual property rights, for example. So when you agree to these contracts, you have to make sure that you clearly state who owns what, who is responsible for what. I think that's absolutely crucial, because you don't want to find out about those things when it's too late, sort of, or find it the hard way.
Yes, but then I think this is kind of like the cryptocurrency and blockchain situation we had years ago. It's like you have the fear of missing out, and maybe you're not that careful when choosing your platforms. And then you get things like these IPOs where those were just scams to get people's money and then just run away. All this is new here in this AI world.
Yeah, I agree.
How do we know whom to trust? Because there are many players now, and there are many small ones and many big ones. The big ones are easy to classify and say, hey, this one is trustful. But what about the small ones? How do we trust them? And like this is really hard at this point.
It's difficult. It's difficult. As you say, you don't want to miss out, but then again, you don't want your company to go down because of your silly mistake to do business with some dodgy company that you just saw and it was the cheapest one or whatever else. It's, as I said, I think you have to do all the research and everything else. Sometimes you have to go with your guts, but also I think from your perspective, you have to do everything in your power to do, to secure your data, to secure yourself, and to expose yourself only what is absolutely needed. Make sure that even if some sort of breach or some sort of problem happens, it actually affects the least amount of your data and it doesn't really affect you that much in a way. I know it's really easy to talk about this, but it's really crucial to try to do it. And here with Authority Partners, as you know, we try to develop and design different AI systems when we work with that. And I like that we're trying to go with the approach, security by design. We're trying to make sure that we are adaptable and we change the approach as any AI system changes. And as you know, it changes really rapidly every day. There's something new. So, regular audits of our AI systems while they're being developed, seeing if there are any issues and things like that, that makes you sort of trustworthy from your other clients as well. And then you're also developing some sort of good security practice or culture throughout the company for all the developers and everyone else that's involved in building these AI systems.
Yes, I completely agree with you. And it's very important for us to, as you mentioned, that we are doing here in Authority Partners, to navigate this from the security mindset, like security first, and let's innovate on top of that without obviously hindering it. And this sounds like people and companies need a strategic partnership to navigate all this, because this sounds like a lot. So
absolutely,
definitely we need to navigate this together. Okay, so finally, I would like to ask one last question. That is, how can we build trust in AI systems to ensure that they are our allies and not our adversaries?
That's $1 million question, right? There are a few pillars that we have to sort of understand, and I see them as foundational pillars for when building, or not building, but how to trust an AI system. Number one would be transparency. It simply means that you understand how AI system makes decisions. It's really like when you have a clear recipe for your very complex dish. We need to know what goes in, how it's mixed, and then you will trust to eat that dish at the end of the day. The second pillar would be accountability. When AI system makes some decision for you, you want to know exactly and clear line of responsibility. If you have an AI system that denies you a loan or it flags you as a security check at the airport, there has to be a way to find out why and how and how to fix whatever is the issue. So it's really important that accountability is very important in my opinion. Then you have reliability as well. All the AI systems should be rigorously tested, just like cars. Before you put them in production line, they do tons of tests before they actually say, okay, this car is safe for use. Same is with artificial intelligence systems. We already spoke about ethics. There are certain values and ethical principles that are sort of common to all humanity. So we have to try to build AI systems that have those values and principles in mind. There should be respect for privacy. There should be respect for fairness, inclusivity, and all these things. We want that AI system to be, like a friend. The values should be aligned for us to sort of trust that friend. And, the last thing would be probably education. Again, it's a key, because the more we understand the artificial intelligence and all the systems that are built on it, the less it seems like a black box, and it sort of becomes a tool that we can sort of manage and control. So, focusing on these, we can actually create a whole environment where AI systems are built and operated in ways that, they can earn not just our trust that we build them, but all the other users that will actually use those systems, they will trust them more. We live in a world where data is like new gold, and AI, it's like an alchemist that turns that raw data or gold into some valuable objects and insights, and if we don't trust it, we probably lose on, huge benefits that AI can bring to business.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing all that. And definitely AI is mining or new resource or new gold. Thank you again. Thank you for sharing this space with me. It's come the time for us to end this session. So thank you everyone for listening in, and bye-bye.
Bye from me as well.
Thank you for listening to Authority Partners podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode.